Welcome to the Writer Talks. Life's perhaps a cumulative collection of memories, accolades, failures, inspirations, of passions unfurled and promises met and unmet. Just as each day, each season, each moment has its distinctive appeal, every writer ushers in newer meanings and interpretations to living, thinking, and feeling. My guest for today, the robust Raconteur, Ramendra Kumar, is a powerhouse of energy, enthusiasm, and unabashedly subscribes to living it up. Ramen, as he prefers to be called, is a writer, storyteller, and an inspirational speaker with 40 books and 34 awards to his credit. He crafts children's fiction, satire, travelogues, poetry, adult fiction, and non-fiction with equal ease. His writings have been translated into 30 languages, both Indian and foreign, and his articles have been published in Reader's Digest, The Week, and several such publications of repute. His books are part of prescribed texts in India, Sri Lanka, and Japan. With a 3-decade career in corporate sector, he now lives in Bangalore and devotes his time to writing and to public speaking. Inteha, the video featuring him and his wife, has garnered over 50,000 views on YouTube that has him performing to the ghazals that he has penned. As an exclusive to the Writer Talks, he renders 2 of his favorite ghazals from this collection.
I shall be reciting 2 ghazals from my book Inteha. ओढ़ कर सोता हूँ, हर रात तेरे ख्वाबों को ओढ़ के सोता हूँ, हर रात तेरी यादों को जोड़ के सोता हूँ। अब तन्हाई बन गई है मेरा हमसफर, बाकी दुनिया से तो हूँ मैं बेखबर। अब तन्हाई बन गई है मेरा हमसफर, बाकी दुनिया से तो हूँ मैं बेखबर। इन्हीं इरादों को अब मैं संजो के सोता हूँ, हर रात तेरे ख्वाबों को ओढ़ के सोता हूँ। मेरी तमन्ना है तू मेरी बाहों में घुल जाए, मेरी ख्वाहिश है तेरी राहें मेरी राहों से मिल जाएं। मेरी तमन्ना है तू मेरी बाहों में घुल जाए, मेरी ख्वाहिश है तेरी राहें मेरी राहों से मिल जाएं। इन्हीं उम्मीद के लम्हों को सिकोड़ के सोता हूँ, इन्हीं उम्मीद के लम्हों को सिकोड़ के सोता हूँ, हर रात तेरी यादों को ओढ़ के सोता हूँ, हर रात तेरी यादों को ओढ़ के सोता हूँ। मुझे सांसों से बांध ले, मुझे सांसों से बांध ले, मुझे नजरों से थाम ले। मैं हूं तेरा, सिर्फ तेरा, मुझे तू अपना मान ले। मेरी आरज़ू तेरे लिए हर पल खिल रही है, मेरी आरज़ू तेरे लिए हर पल खिल रही है, हर ख्वाहिश तुझसे ख्वाबों में मिल रही है। ओ बेरहम तू मेरा और न इम्तिहान ले, ओ बेरहम तू मेरा और न इम्तिहान ले। मैं हूं तेरा, सिर्फ तेरा, मुझे तू अपना मान ले। मेरी पलकें तक तेरे सजदे में झुक गई हैं, मेरी पलकें तक तेरे सजदे में झुक गई हैं, मेरी राहें तेरी राहों के लिए रुक गई हैं। अब आ भी जा किश्तों में तू न मेरी जान ले, अब आ भी जा किश्तों में तू न मेरी जान ले। मैं हूं तेरा, सिर्फ तेरा, तू मुझे अपना मान ले। भीग पूरा गया हूं तेरे प्यार की ओस में, भीग पूरा गया हूं तेरे प्यार की ओस में, पूरा मैं खो गया हूं अब तेरी ही सोच में, पूरा मैं खो गया हूं अब तेरी ही सोच में। मेरे हालत का तू जमाने से बयान ले, मेरी हालत का तू जमाने से बयान ले। मैं हूं तेरा, सिर्फ तेरा, मुझे तू अपना मान ले। मैं हूं तेरा, सिर्फ तेरा, मुझे तू अपना मान ले।
Mesmerizing, isn't he? He is equally captivating as a storyteller and held me transfixed with his narration of a horror story with the same ease with which he described the significance of the domestic violence act. So without further ado, let's dive in and watch this quick-witted, exuberant, prolific writer share his experiences as a writer and as a public speaker. But before that, Please like, share, and subscribe to the Writer Talk so that we can continue such rewarding literary engagements with brilliant writers from across the world. I do hope you enjoy watching me talk to this enlivening live wire Ramendra Kumar. Until next week, stay inspired, act on that passion, and live your dreams. Ahoy! Ahoy! Welcome to the Writer Talks. Joining me is Mr. Ramendra Kumar from Bangalore. Ahoy, Ramen. Great to see you.
Hi, great here.
So, managed to write anything today or yesterday? And what did you write?
In fact, yesterday I wrote a short story, a children's story,
Uh-huh.
about a girl, a 6-year-old girl called Simran, who is coping with the sudden death of her grandma as a result of COVID, and helping her out in a rather clumsy way is her dad, because he himself doesn't know how to deal with this kind of a situation. So how he manages to create an empathy connect with his daughter, that is what the story is all about.
Beautiful. Did you manage to finish the story?
Yeah, I finished it at one go, and I'll let it just kind of how should I say, I've kept it in cold storage. I think tomorrow or day after I'll finish it.
Okay, okay. So how is it? Once you finish writing, you usually finish it in one go and then you go back and edit it? How do you
Yeah,
go?
so for me, it's like, I suppose I get an idea, I allow it to ferment in my mind. And when I say ferment, uh, the characters are formed, the situations are created, the plot is more or less in place. Sometimes even the setting is finalized. Everything happens here. And then whenever I get time, I type out the whole thing, usually at one go or in two attempts, and then I just shut it and leave it. I return to it after 3-4 days, maybe a week, and that is it. After that, I hate going back to it. I don't like too many corrections. I'm not comfortable at all. So then I send it to the editor or the publisher, whoever it may be.
Great, great. And who is your
And there's
most trusted?
one thing
Right.
which I think I've the blessings of my father, that I can keep a story in my head for days, for weeks, for months. There was one story which I thought of. I won't tell you the year because then you know my age. I kept it in my head for 10 years
Wow.
and then wrote it exactly as the way I had thought of, including the characters and a few of the dialogues. So I'm in no great hurry to jump on the computer. I had a full-time public relations job where chaos is the order of the day. Like I'm sitting on the computer, suddenly I get a phone call from a media person that, sir, we've just heard that there's an accident in the steel plant and 5 people are injured. One is very serious. What's your response and all? So then I have to shift to that mode.
Right,
So
right.
that's why I believe that my ability to write in chaos has helped me move on during my career.
I think that's a great gift that you have to be able to write in chaos, and you have the entire blueprint up here, and you can just jot it down at convenience. That's wonderful, and you're such a versatile writer. Added to that, you cater to children, young adults. Your oeuvre extends to poetry, fiction, non-fiction, memoir, articles. You even wrote a book about ghazals. How do you manage this? Which is your most preferred genre?
My first, let me answer your first question. See, I'm a blockhead, so I'm always scared that I'll suffer from the writer's block. So whenever I feel jaded or kind of bored with one genre, I switch to something else.
Right.
So that keeps me refreshed, and then I come back to this. If I wouldn't be doing that, I wouldn't be able to write in so many genres. So that's the main reason. My favorite genre is children's fiction, from picture books to chapter books and early readers to tweens to teens to young adults. And in this genre, my absolute favorite
is sports fiction. Now, I have played every kind of sport: kabaddi, hockey, basketball, even baseball, cricket, football, table tennis, uh, and whatever you can imagine. And you must be wondering that I was very good in all of them. In fact, I was terrible in all the sports. I was absolutely pathetic in every sport except table tennis. But because I played all those sports, that feeling, that
Right.
spirit of sports, that I managed to, imbibe. Because sports has a certain kind of a metaphor,
Right.
as you would agree: the camaraderie, the teamwork,
True.
the healthy competition. It's a metaphor for life itself, that roller coaster ride. So that's why through the medium of sports stories, I've tried to convey a lot of life and a lot of living.
I'm sure, and probably this is the spirit that has kept you going. 41 books and counting, 34 awards and counting. That's a mind blowing number for any one writer to have. And besides this, I think your books are part of prescribed texts in countries like India, Japan, Sri Lanka. That's a huge honor to have. Right? We'll talk about all of these things, but first let's dive into the rapid response section. I'm sure you are aware of the rapid response
Yeah,
section.
yeah, I'm wearing an armor. I'm wearing an armor.
Okay, all right, fine. So since you're already protected, let's straight away dive in. I'll begin with the first question. So between writing and public speaking, which do you think is harder and more challenging?
See, writing is like cinema. Public speaking is like theater. In writing, you have a chance to edit. In cinema, there's always a possibility of a retake. In public speaking, no editing, no retake. You're right there live. So no question of mistakes. That's why public speaking is tougher.
Absolutely, absolutely, and so well put. I completely agree with you. And no scope for mistakes or whatever guffaws you make. It's there for everybody to see. Right. Now let's imagine this hypothetical scenario. If you were the captain of the Indian cricket team and you had to choose between Rahul Dravid and Sachin Tendulkar, whom would you choose and why?
Any day, Dravid.
Hmm.
Because Dravid is far more dependable. He is really the wall. In every crunch situation, he
Right.
has stood up and fired. Though I took Sachin Tendulkar's autograph when I interviewed him in 1991 when he had come to Rourkela for a Duleep Trophy match,
Uh-huh.
my favorite is Dravid.
Right. He has the technique and the temperament. I think. Right. That's true.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Now, if you had the option to choose between your book being a bestseller or a Booker Prize winner, what would your option be?
Any day a Booker Prize, I would love the adulation of the classes rather than the masses. For me, any day Guru Dutt is more important than Karan Johar.
Fair enough. Absolutely. There's no comparison at all. True. Now, if you had the choice to meet any one of these three writers, all right, the choices would be Lewis Carroll, William Shakespeare, Oscar Wilde. Whom would you prefer to meet? And there is an addendum to this. And what is that one thing you'd like to ask?
Definitely William Shakespeare. I mean, what would literature be without William Shakespeare? And I would ask him that how did he manage to be so versatile and so prolific? I mean, he is for me the ultimate in literature.
Absolutely. Right. And he has got such an insight into the human psyche. I don't think any of us can say anything new. He has already said everything.
Absolutely. And even today, interpretations in so many languages. I mean, half the films in India are some way or the other inspired by the writings of William Shakespeare.
Right.
Some way or the other.
True.
There's really nobody like him.
Okay, now let's try this question. If you were the protagonist and I was the writer, writing about you, what is that one flaw and one unique quality about you that I would have to put down in my
Flaw, I think I'm perfect. But anyways, the flaw would be that I'm too much of a perfectionist, and that sometimes my family gets irritated. That's a major flaw. And the one quality I think is my wit. I think I mean, everybody tells me that I have a great sense of humor and I'm very witty. So that's my strength. I've got into trouble because of that sometimes. But,
that's true. Humor all can it's a double-edged sword. All right. Now this should be a little bit of a tricky question. Between speaking your mind, writing, and being sensitive, if you were allowed to do only one of these three things for the rest of your life, which one would you choose to
writing.
do? Okay.
I mean, writing is for me the passion. It is the thing. And it's a catharsis. It is my comfort zone. It is the place where I would like to be the rest of my life. Just writing, first and foremost.
All right. Fantastic. Thanks for being such a sport. Let's continue discussing your works and your writing process. While most of us dream of traveling to these countries, or at best can claim to have traveled to these countries, be it Japan or Sri Lanka, you have managed to ensure that your books are part of the prescribed texts. How did this happen?
See, actually, I had no role to play. Because of the internet, people had access to my stories.
Right.
So the first such opportunity I got was from Norway, and this book was for class 8 students, and they were talking about the entire culture of the world, like China and India and America and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a section on India. So they picked up a story of mine, which talks about the spirit of Diwali. Yeah, and then they explain what Diwali was and all. It's such a beautiful way of teaching. I wish Indian, educationists would follow this kind of a system. Make it so interesting. And there were only, now I'm going to be immodest, there were only 2 writers from India included in that textbook. One was Ramendra Kumar, the other was Rabindranath Tagore.
Wow, so you're an honest geek. Lovely. That's a fantastic compliment to your writing. That's great.
Absolutely.
Right. And what is the special connection with Sri Lanka again? You've been felicitated by the
actually,
writers and publishers of Sri Lanka, I think, in 2017, right?
Yeah. So it happened this way, that my first book for children, called Just a Second and Other Stories, was I think one of the translators in Sri Lanka, writer come translator, his name is Bobby G. Boteju. He came across it in a trade fair. He loved the book. He sought the permission of the publisher, and he translated and got it published. But the publisher in India, he didn't tell me anything. One fine day, I got a letter from Mr. Bobby G. Boteju saying that I have translated your book. It's come out well, and can you come to Sri Lanka? We would like to felicitate you. But then those days it wasn't so easy. I'm talking about early 2000, getting leave and then the money part and everything else and all that. So I just thanked him profusely, and but he took such a liking to my writing that he translated 6 books and several stories.
Lovely.
And one of the stories was picked up by the government of Sri Lanka and included in a textbook. 320,000 copies of that textbook have been distributed across the Emerald Isle.
Oh.
And for me, that is a huge high. First of all, I had to check how many zeros are there in 320,000, right? So this gentleman, I think he has taken a great fancy to my writing. And so he invited me once again. And this time, of course, we could afford and all that. So my wife and I, we went there. So there were a couple of sessions in schools, a session with the students of post-graduation pursuing English, and there was a seminar in which I was a speaker and all. And in one of those functions, I was felicitated for my contribution to literature.
It's fantastic. It's really lovely. I think you were also nominated as a jury member for the Best Children's Authors category of JK Paper and the Times of India's Women Author Awards 2020, just last year. Would you like to
Yeah, yeah,
talk about this
yeah.
experience?
Yeah, definitely. So this was again a great honor, because they had the jury was, I mean, the categories were I think four. So in the children's author, I was there, Bulbul Sharma and Wazir. I'm forgetting her full name. She's acted in this movie Dil To Pagal Hai. So Shivani Wazir. She was also one of them. So three of us were there. And the entire panel comprised people like Shobha De, Sonali Bendre, Ashwin Sanghi. So after we submitted our evaluation, we were called on March 8th, International Women's Day last year, to Taj Hotel in Delhi. This was the first time I don't go anywhere without my wife, So both of us went there. First time we were staying in a 5-star hotel, to confess. And it was great. It was great fun. And there what happened was Shashi Tharoor was there.
Right.
So I was not supposed to speak, but I told the anchor I would like to speak for a minute. So then I started saying that all the books that we got where to use a word which would be kind of entering the domain of Mr. Shashi Tharoor. All the books were supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. So, and then I spoke a few things and all that. And so it was great fun. And then later he asked me my name and I got introduced to him. A very, very sportive person, Publicly I had indulged in leg pulling and he took it like a sport. So it was fun. It was a great experience. Great experience.
Lovely. Now, I believe your first fiction for adults, in fact, I did read a part of this. Your first fiction for adults, Mohini, was sold out in the very first week of its release and it was declared the Amazon bestseller as well. Can you tell us a little more about this mesmerizing Mohini?
Yeah. Can I read out from the blurb? Because this blurb has a special connotation for me. I'll tell you that later. A beautiful and charismatic actress, a sensitive and immensely gifted director, a scheming, wily but brilliant manager. Mohini is the pulsating saga of three individuals, each driven by an obsession. Set in the background of the bold and brazen world of Bollywood, it's a tale of passion, intrigue, and suspense. The narrative moves at a roller coaster speed and captures love in its myriad shades: infatuation, romance, commitment, lust, and obsession. Yeah, so it's basically about a Bollywood heroine, and it's a kind of a love triangle and all. So when this blurb was published and this book, I mean, rather the book was published, so there was this gentleman called Dr. Singh. He was the managing director of Roorkela Steel Plant, so I had presented a copy to him. Later, he came back as the chairman of the jury for the best integrated steel plant. It's a big award, instituted by the government of India. And there in the full meeting, he said that the brochure which you guys have given me about what the steel plant is doing, this, that, and all, it's so lengthy and laborious. You know how the brochure should be? The brochure should be like Ramendra Kumar's, the blurb in Ramendra Kumar's book Mohini: short, sharp, and impacting. So that was great, So this, actually, how did I get to write this book? Like ever since I was a child, there was a lot of filmy gossip going on in the house. My parents were absolutely Bollywood fans, so they would discuss about Raj Kapoor and Vajantiwala and Dilip Kumar and of course Guru Dutt and Rishikesh Mukherjee and all that. So a little bit of stuff I managed to imbibe, and then I wanted to write in a genre which is completely different from what I was writing. I'd been writing satire and poetry and children's fiction, but adult fiction and that to Bollywood was a big challenge. So I think I just about managed to get it right.
How did you come about the story? How did you conceive the story?
The story was, it was like, how should I say? It started off as a political kind of narrative, where there is this very ambitious guy who uses his girlfriend to woo, like honey trap the other politicians and all. It started off like that, but then I thought, no, let me make it a full-fledged Bollywood film. And this was much before uh, Dirty Picture or any such thing.
Ah, okay.
And I was impressed by certain incidents, like the Rekha Amitabh. Get my point. And the fact that Vajanti Mala refused her award for Devdas
Hmm.
because it was in the category of Best Supporting Actress.
Right.
She said, I'm the heroine of the movie. So why Best Supporting Actress? There's so many vignettes and around that. But basically, this is again a story of human relations, of ambition, of aspiration, of, how should I say, love and lust. So it's basically all about human issues or human related uh, nuances, which I have, given a, how should I say, a cloak of a Bollywood thriller.
Okay, interesting. Now, moving to your multiple interests as far as your writing is concerned, because it's not very common for a writer to be adept at so many genres and so successfully as that. You're easily slipping from into being a children's writer and then seamlessly moving on to penning a non-fiction, and then you even managed to churn out a book on ghazals. How do you actually manage this? I mean, you did mention that it keeps you ticking, but then is there some kind of a special technique that you use to
No,
switch from one?
there is no technique. This was more serendipity than anything else. We had this professor. We had this professor in NIT Rourkela, National Institute of Technology Rourkela. He is a very good singer. So he happened to meet me in some place, and then he said that you've been writing for children and adults and all now Mohini and everything else. Why don't you write ghazals and I'll sing them? So I said, see, ghazal is not my forte, I just can't do it. He said, no, why don't you try? So I came back home and I told Madhvi that just look at this. Today somebody was asking me to write ghazals. Come on, can you imagine me writing ghazals? So she said, why? Why can't you write a ghazal? You can write a ghazal. Now, Asha, if your wife thinks you can, you bloody well should, must, and can. So I literally took it up as a thing, picking up the gauntlet and all that. And then I wrote one ghazal. There's a lot of apprehension. But there is another backstory to that. My father was a professor of Hindi. And he always wanted me to write in Hindi also.
Okay.
Now, the reason why and my mother is a famous short story writer in Hindi again. So I did not want to write in the language where I would be completely in the shadow of my illustrious parents. I wanted to move away. So I decided to move to English and started writing only in English. So, but at the back of my mind, it was always there that, okay, my Babaji, my father, wanted me to write and all that. I wrote one ghazal and Madhvi loved it. So then it went on and on and on and on. And that's how the book of ghazals called Inteha came about.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That's lovely. I will definitely pick that up, and because I love ghazals too. I grew up listening to them. Again, thanks to my mom. You must have grown up listening to ghazals, or perhaps your mother must have penned a couple of them.
Yeah, she penned some poems, and then in my house again, Sahir Ludhianvi and Shailendra.
Oh,
These were quoted by my father. He was absolutely crazy about poetry, much more than prose, and his favorites were Sahir and Shailendra. So he would often tell me that, see, Sahir has done such a wonderful job in Pyasa, Shailendra has done such a wonderful job in The Guide, like that.
any favorite ghazal singers that you
Uh,
admire?
I like Jagjit Singh very much, but my all-time favorite ghazal is Gulam Ali's Chupke Chupke Raat Din, Aansu Bahana Yaad Hai. And there are 6 or 7 stanzas.
Absolutely, and
In the movie,
that's
there are
such a
only two
classic.
stanzas. Yeah, it's a
Such a
classic.
classic. Absolutely. Great. Now let's move on to discussing your more recent publications. I'm actually at a loss given your large body of work, so I thought we'll look at the most recent publications. Uh,
There's one thing I would like to just
yeah.
discuss with you, tell you, is the album uh, called Inteha, how it came about, you know. So, Madhvi is a good singer, so she decided that she would sing, and we got this thing, stuff recorded, you know, in a kind of fancy studio in Rourkela. But in Rourkela, you don't have anything fancy, you know, except Madhvi and I. So, but anyways, so she did a great job and all. So, one of our friends, her name is Anandita, she said, "Sir, now that we are going to start editing and all, what about you? Where are you going to be placed?" So I said, "I'll have a small passport size lyricist, Ramendra Kumar, and you know this very unnaturally modest this thing expression of mine." But she said, "No, sir, you should be in the video." So I said, "Really, you think that?" I said, "Okay." Then I ran out, immediately called the videographer that tomorrow at 11 o'clock you should come and we'll do a video. Now the point with the video was that I think I'm a natural as far as the camera is concerned. You just have to kind of switch on the camera and I start doing whatever I have to. But my wife Madhavi, she's too nervous, absolutely nervous. So we used to have this romantic kind of lines, you know, तुझे पाने से पहले कहीं खो न दूं. So she's supposed to be singing that. So I said, strike a romantic pose. She's looking at me like this. "तुझे पाने से पहले कहीं खो न दूं." I said, "Where is the romance here, man? Get that melting look in your eyes and all that." And she said, "I can't do all that." So fortunately, I remembered all the lovely things I used to tell her when we were dating, as is a love marriage. When we were dating, I had to repeat the entire thing to get her in some kind of a mood. In the second ghazal, uh, I said, "I'll do a dance step," right? So then she said, "Okay." So now I'm dancing and looking at her. The line is, "हर लम्हे की कहानी बस इतनी हो सनम, हर लम्हे की कहानी बस इतनी हो सनम, तुमसे ही शुरू, तुम पे ही खत्म." Very romantic. So now she has to give me a romantic look. She's again standing like this. God knows what this fellow is doing. Unnecessary being an ass of himself. We had to have at least 20 retakes there, you know. But finally, the album was done, and it's doing well, you know, 50K
Yes,
plus.
it's good. Yeah, absolutely. It's got 50,000 plus views. That's
Mhm.
amazing. It's available on YouTube, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very much there on YouTube.
And what is the video called?
It's called Inteha.
Inteha itself. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Beautiful. So that's another thing to check out. All right. So coming back to your most recent publications, let's begin by the one that particularly caught my fancy. Aryan, Your Lab, and his Canine Chronicles. How did you think of this? It's very engaging.
Thank you. See, what happened was, for the first time, I think in 12 years, my family was closeted together uh, in the four walls of the house because of COVID. 20th March, it was the shutdown was lockdown was declared in Odisha, and we were there. We had my kids had come on 19th. 20th, it was lockdown. So now, can you imagine two uber cool teenagers in their 50s, my wife and I, and two ultra mature adults, my son and daughter, 25 and 29, in one single house. I thought it's going to be World War 3, 4, and 5. But luckily, fortunately, we had a blast. And the reason why we had a blast was, you know, those moments were all swathed in memories, shaped by empathy, and soaked in love. We had spent so many moments together as the kids were growing up, doing crazy things, reading together, jumping around, playing together, cheating in Ludo, everything. All we got those albums out. We went through those albums and all. So then that became a great connect. You know that this is the time we are never ever going to get in our lives. So let us make the best use of it. So what I thought was, suppose I write from the point of view of Aryan,
Ah,
how
okay.
would it be? Aryan is seeing his brother, sister, and his parents together the first time. And I felt that Aryan is my one of my favorite kids. His brown eyes, Asha, have a vocabulary of their own, the soulful brown eyes. His tale indulges in a stream of consciousness technique and the kind of connect we have. Sometimes just a look from him and I can understand so much what he's trying to say. Whereas when my wife tries to say something, it's a combination of Sudoku and chess and some Chinese puzzle and all that. It takes me so long to understand. But jokes apart, so I thought, why cannot I imagine? So I literally put myself in his tail or in his eyes and all that and started writing, you know. So I've created, I mean, for instance, when we had this situation, uh, so I let me just say it from his point of view. Now Aryan is sleeping, dead to the world, dreaming that his sister is feeding him something, his brother is feeding him something, his mama is petting him, his papa is jumping around and all. Bliss. Then suddenly he hears a huge crash. He thinks that the washing machine has fallen on his head, or his pet peeve, Bhudevi the cat, is shrieking in his ear. He gets up with a start and runs out into the veranda and he finds that his family is beating the hell out of every steel vessel in sight. He's now scared. He knew that his family was bonkers, but they are downright mad. What's happened to them? Why the hell are they doing this? He runs out and calls out to his girlfriend, his live-in partner, Priyamvada or Pri. And then he tells her, what's happening? Has my family gone rockers? She says, no, Buddhu, you are not seeing the TV. No, the other day, Modi Dadu came and he said, for the sake of the COVID warriors, we should all beat thalis. That is why your family is beating thalis. So the book is has all these kind of small vignettes, you know, and also a certain kind of value where Priyambada and his and Aryan discuss that how COVID is a result of man invading nature, how man has stopped being empathetic to nature, and if this kind of thing continues, there is no future for mankind.
That's an interesting leap that it takes. Beautiful, and I love the way you described your Aryan, your lab. Beautiful. Yes, I think, yeah, following this naturally, it's raining cats and dogs as far as the muse is concerned, and may the muse be with you. So, your other recent publication is Shriek and Other Spooky Tales, and I believe it's an eclectic compilation of stories. And one of them includes Retribution Unleashed by a Cat. So, from the canine to the feline now, right? So, can you tell us about how Shriek and Other Spooky Tales came about?
Yeah, so these stories were written over a period of time. Now, I used to tell. I was given the pleasurable task of telling one story every night to my kids as they were growing up, so that Madhvi could take care of the rest of the housework. And the kids, being kids, they wanted a new story every night. So you can imagine how much of imagination and creativity I would have to indulge in. And their memories are so sharp that one line also, if it is repeated, Papa, tum to ye suna chuke ho. And they used to have fights over the kind of stories they like. But both of them loved scary stories. I'll give you a sample. My son would be sitting at a distance of around 6 feet and I would start. रात के ठीक 12 बजे लक्ष्मी जंगल में जा रही थी. छन 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 छन. इतने में आवाज आई. Now, Aniket, लक्ष्मी आगे बढ़ी. इतने में एक बहुत बड़ा खंडहर सामने आया. खंडहर में दरवाजा. दरवाजा खुला. छन छन. Now between this Chanchu, Hoo, Chacha, by the time Lakshmi ate the wolf or the chudel, or the chudel gobbled up Lakshmi, Aniket would be on my lap, holding me tight and looking up. Asha, I cannot tell you what a pleasurable moment that was. I would love to relive it again and again and again. So that was one thing. Second thing was, I had written a story and I was invited to the Sholai school in near Kodaikanal. So there they wanted me to tell a story. So I said, I'll tell a ghost story, but let us create the ambience. So that school is very, very different. It doesn't have those buildings kind of things and all that. It's all green and a couple of, how should I say, rooms scattered all over the place. The kids grow their own vegetables and like that, Jiddu Krishnamurti types, So we went right up to the hilltop, and there was only a kind of a this thing, covering and a platform. So there I stood there in the middle of the night. It was around 12 o'clock. One candle, Ramendra Kumar, and 45 kids and 10 teachers looking at me. And there I told a ghost story. The impact was absolutely awesome. And the third thing, I hope I'm not.
Not at all.
Yeah. The third thing was, Madhvi and I had gone to meet Ruskin Bond in Landur, which is a small place just above Mussoorie. After we had a long chat, we were walking back to the place where we were staying. So it was around 9 o'clock. It was pitch dark. The lights had not come on, and it was cold. It had rained, so the raindrops had settled on the leaves. So whenever there was a slight breeze, the drops would fall. On one side there was a huge cliff, on the other side a valley, in between a road where Madhvi and I were walking. We could hardly see anything, beyond 4 or 5 feet. And the only sound was the sound of our footsteps. Tuck, 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 tuck. At that moment, Madhvi looked at me and smiled. And I thought, suppose Madhvi turns into a ghost. What will happen? And believe me, after I came back to Rourkela, I wrote a story, not Madhvi turning into a ghost, otherwise I'll get killed, but about 2 men who reappear from the dead. And that's where the story, begins and ends.
Amazing. That's so captivating. You really had me there. And I must say, you're a brilliant raconteur. You really have a way of telling those stories. And beautiful. Now, let's move on to your other passion. Now, your passion for cricket, since you're so very fond of this particular game. Now, are you which form of the game do you really like? Are you a good old Test match fan, or the one dayers, the 2020s?
2020. Now it's 2020 because I really don't have so much of time, But when we were young, there was only cricket, Test cricket. So I used to maintain those log sheets and all that, So we used to paste all those things in notebooks. How much Gavaskar scored, how much G.R. Vishwanath scored, and all that. Yeah. 2020 now.
Right. Now, how did this fiction, the Siege of Cricket, how did you manage that? How did this come about?
Now, I have always been fond of sports fiction, and cricket has been my major passion. I was a leg spinner, and I played for my school team. But when I was bowling to my schoolmates, they were around 5 feet nothing. So my leg spin was coming as good length. So they were finding it difficult to play. Then we went to another school where the guys had possibly lied about their age. They were 5 feet and 5.5 or whatever, and pretty tall and hefty and all that. So my leg spinners were like easy fodder for them, below their knees. So my below the belt missiles were completely crunched by them, and in one single over I got smashed for 18 runs. So the first over of my life became the last over of my life, and the best leg spinner after Chandrasekhar and before Yuzvendra Chahal was lost to eternity, lost for eternity. So I wanted to write something on entirely a book on cricket. And the first blow I got as a cricket fan was when Hansi Cronje and that match fixing thing came about.
Right, right, right.
It was because for me, Hansi Cronje was the best captain, cool, calm, collected,
Absolutely.
brilliant player, and what a leader. And when he indulged in something else, it was a shock. That's where I got the seed idea of writing about match fixing. So this book is about four youngsters who stumble upon a murder and start following that trail. And they find that there is a plot to destroy this beautiful game of cricket. And in the plot, you have a cricket captain, a dashing cricketer, a media mogul, a commentator, an anchor, and the dictator of an island, which is a speck in the Indian Ocean. So the kids managed to go to that island where a international tournament is happening, and there, with the help of a, a don from Hyderabad, you know, they managed to catch the culprit. And there is a spin in the this thing, a twist in the tail and all that. So now this book was rejected by around 8 or 9 publishers because cricket is a kind of a, how should I say, very uh, sacred kind of thing. No, it's a religion for us.
It's a holy
So
grail
anybody
for
who's
us,
trying
yeah.
to finger that religion is going to get it. So finally, a brave new publisher called Readomania accepted it. And you know, when he rang me up and he said that you're going to publish your book, I had the same feeling when years ago Madhvi looked deep into my eyes and said huskily, Ramen, you're not as stupid as you look.
Okay, that's a very interesting analogy. Okay, lovely. Can I request you to do a book reading for us, please? And I leave it to your choice. So any one of
Hey,
these.
you tell me, cricket or ghost story?
I'm really, I'm stumped. You give me your choice. Let's go with your choice.
Okay, so let me go with cricket.
Right. Yeah. Since you did manage to tell us a story bordering on the horror.
Mhm. Okay, so here goes. Vicky, Vicky, Vicky. The crowd started chanting as the Aussie speedster, the fearsome Danny Higgins, came in full throttle to bowl. The score was now 266 for 9. 4 runs to win, 1 wicket in hand, and 2 balls to go. It couldn't get more thrilling than this. On strike was the captain, Vikram Vicky Vijayakar, while at the other end was the 11th man, Mohan Rao. Danny Higgins charged in and bowled. The ball pitched on the off stump and came in. Vicky tapped it to the short mid wicket and started running. Mohan, seeing Alan Beers, Australia's best fielder, swooping on the ball, yelled, No! Get back! His scream echoed in the still stadium. However, Vicky kept running as if he hadn't heard anything. Alan's direct hit shattered the stumps with Vicky stranded in the middle, glaring at Mohan, who hadn't even left his crease. There was complete pandemonium all around. How could Vicky be so stupid? Neha wailed, almost on the verge of tears. She loved watching Vicky play and was crazy about his aggressive batting, sharp fielding, and his body language. A rush of blood, my child. It can happen even to the best of players, her father, Ramkumar, replied. But he ruined everything, his image and India's chances. Just then, Ramkumar's cell phone rang. Hello, Mr. Ramkumar? I know you're watching the cricket match. Who's speaking? First, please listen to me. Vicky has deliberately lost the match. What? Yes, sir. He is guilty of match fixing. You're talking complete rot. He's such an accomplished player, a committed cricketer, and the captain of the team. He'll never do that. I have proof, sir. Can you come to my house? It is very close to the stadium. The address is Giriraj Apartments behind Big Bazaar. Why don't you come over to my office in Sriram Towers? Please, sir, if you cannot or if you're not interested, then I'll tell this to some other editor. 20 minutes later, Ramkumar was ringing the bell of the flat. It was on the fifth floor of a 10-story building. There was no response. He rang the bell and waited, and then gently pushed the door. It opened. He went in, followed by Neha. She looked over his shoulder and screamed. A man was sitting sprawled on the sofa. He was clad in a light blue t-shirt and a pair of dark blue jeans. He seemed to be in his 30s and had a dark, round face, a blob of a nose, and large, round eyes which were staring at them. On the pocket of his t-shirt, there was a hole from which blood was oozing.
Very, very, very engrossing. Thank you for that. That's great. Right. Now, continuing with this whole context of the pandemic, there were multiple discussions last year, in particular, about increased domestic violence and abuse. Now, it's very gratifying to note that you actually came up with a very topical and pertinent book. It's still in the process, right? The Silent Pandemic: Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act. Would you like to talk about this?
Yeah, see, people don't realize, that we're talking about COVID and so many other things. Yes, that's dangerous. But does anybody realize what's happening within the four walls of the house? The men are not going out to work, right? And then the financial instability is there. Some of them are hooked on to booze. And now the government has been allowing home delivery and all.
Right.
So, in normal circumstances, when there are so many ways of engaging yourself and keeping yourself occupied and all, and those things are not there, everything is imploding inside, And who are the sufferers? The women and the kids. Now, we have a very powerful act, this Domestic Violence Act 2005, but not many people know about it. Why don't they know about it? Because of sheer ignorance. And second thing is, those of who know, they don't want to exercise it because there is a social stigma. Like if I'm a woman, if I go to the police station, my family will tell, "Hey, what the hell, you brought such bad name to our house, to our home." And these things happen everywhere. Legitimize everything, rationalize everything, But don't provide succor and solace to the woman. This act is one of the most powerful acts. It provides every kind of protection. And if, for example, if a woman is not able to stay with her husband and the court offers separation, she can continue staying in the same house and the husband has to provide for that. She can continue staying in whichever portion she wants and nobody can touch her. There are so many other aspects, and it's not only the husband's family also. In terms of the kids, where the kids are going to stay, what is the protection that's going to be given to the kids? What is the compensation the man has to pay to the woman? Everything is detailed. Every measure is victim friendly. But nobody knows about it. So and the second thing was because legal stuff is usually clothed in so much of jargon that people don't understand. So I have deconstructed the entire act in as simple language as possible. I couldn't obviously do everything. It's possible. And then I've taken 4 or 5 case studies for each aspect of the act. Like in one particular case, she's a victim of abuse. In another, she's a victim of persecution. This guy is very insecure, so he keeps checking when she's coming home, whom she's talking to, why she's talking to, what kind of dress she's wearing. That's another kind of persecution. In one thing, this fellow comes home drunk and beats her up. In one, everything is perfect, but she has given birth to the 3rd child. So the mother-in-law starts inflicting torture on her and throws her out. So through these case studies, I have tried to explain the importance of the Domestic Violence Act, so that more and more people come to know, more and more people come out. Absolutely. And somehow we are rid of this malaise, because this is one pandemic, Asha, which is not going to go easily.
Absolutely, and it is to do with the mindset, and that will take ages to break. So,
Patriarchy, absolute.
right,
The root cause is patriarchy.
correct. And women internalize these things and
Yeah,
really
they internalize it, they
runs.
justify it.
Yeah,
They
absolutely.
justify it. I have seen in my own, I come from a very, very traditional background. In my own house, my sister did not allow her kids to work because her logic was when the husbands come, who's going to serve them tea? Come on, in this age, this is 10 years back, in this age and time, are they, and they are both brilliant students. I mean, and I couldn't explain to her, and she was more vociferous than anybody else. This is the kind of society we are living in.
True, absolutely. No, it's crucial to create this kind of an awareness, and I'm really happy that you're coming out with such an important book. And I think the other part, besides the social stigma, is also even when a woman brings herself to go ahead and lodge a complaint, it's the treatment that she gets. That's another story altogether. But anyway,
True,
awareness
true.
is definitely the key. Right now, how advantageous was it for you to pen this very successful, effective parenting, a new paradigm, since you're a parent yourself?
See, the idea about parenting came up when I myself was making those blunders, which most of us as parents do. And where did I again get this idea? Because I have been lucky to have the best parent in the universe, my dad. My mother left home when I was just 14, and my dad brought me up as a single parent, you know. And the values which I have kind of, imbibed from him, those values are the crux of this book called Effective Parenting. And there I have uh, thought of a few new concepts. One concept I would share, which has become a bit popular, is called ATM. You know what ATM is, anytime money or.
Right.
So I have created a concept called anytime memory, right? And I tell people that the ATM card which you use can get lost, can get stolen, can get torn. But the ATM card which I'm telling you is forever. Because like diamonds, memories are everlasting, eternal, enduring, and enduring. So how do you create those memories? You don't need to be a rocket scientist. No. All you need is two things. Both four-letter words. Love and time. Right? And we have enough of both. Though we keep complaining we have no time and all that. So spend time with your child. Spend quality time with your child. So I used to do that. My Madhvi would join me. Like I'll give you one example that we had this concept called Papa's Day Out, where we would send Madhvi to the office with a big tiffin, and the kids and I would do crazy things. We would wear funny kind of clothes. The agenda would be set by the kids. Lunch would be breakfast. Breakfast would be lunch. We would go to the local zoo, jump around with the monkeys and all, and eat in places where Madhvi wouldn't step in. So she's very hygiene conscious and all. See stupid kind of movies. And if it rained, it was Papa's Day in. So there are so many such myriad moments. Then telling them stories. If you're not a storyteller, read out to them. See the bond, the connect which is there when you read out a story. When you're looking at the television, what? Everybody's looking at the same thing. You tell once upon a time long ago, long ago there was a king. Everybody's watching the same king. But if I tell my daughter, I read a story, once upon a time long ago there was a king. To her the king is different, her imagination, her creativity. And she's sharing space with her father. She's hearing his voice. She's connecting that kid, the king, with that story. So this is something which I feel all parents can do. Spend quality time with their kids, especially now when we are in this pandemic. There was an executive director of ours who had told me, Ramen, I never watched my daughter grow like this. I watched her grow like this. I said, why, sir? Because in the morning I used to leave at 6 o'clock, she used to be sleeping. I used to come at 9 o'clock in the night, she used to be sleeping. So I wanted to tell you that I do not know whether you're more unfortunate or stupid, or you're a combination of both. Unfortunate because you did not see your daughter in those beautiful years, and stupid because you did not even realize your mistake.
Right. Fair enough. Fair
So
enough.
that is one concept in my book, Effective Parenting, ATM.
Right. Now, what about the sequel that you're coming up with, New Age Parenting? What does it constitute?
See, in the sequel, I'm talking about some concepts which are just kind of read up and all that. One is called Hygge. Are you familiar with the concept called Hygge?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Danish concept where they say that take pleasure in the little things in life, like a warm cup of coffee, a chapter from P.G. Woodhouse or Asterix, a walk. Fill your life with these moments. you know. So all of us should try to search for these Hygge moments and enjoy. I'll give you an example. When my dad would come during the holidays, I would be at home. So he would walk down from the university. He would buy 10 paisa chikki. It used to cost 10 paisa. Put it in his pocket. He would come and knock on the door. I would rush, open the door, rush back, and then he would wait for me. And then I would rush again and throw myself in his arms, and he would hug me. And I would take the chikki out, break it into two unequal pieces. Bigger piece I would take, smaller piece he would take. That for me is a Hygge moment, and I still remember that.
Lovely.
So create Hygge moments.
That's
Second thing is ikigai. You know ikigai. It is a Japanese concept of what makes you tick, what is important to you,
right.
what is your passion. Each of us should search for our ikigai. It can be one, it can be two, it can be three. But the point is, we are just blindly running after stuff which is supposed to be giving us happiness. But real happiness will come to you with Hygge, with ikigai. Now, my ikigai is writing. I have taken voluntary retirement to pursue my ikigai. My daughter's ikigai is traveling. She's a travel influencer. 118K, 120K followers and all that. Her ikigai is travel. So let us all follow our ikigai. Let us enrich ourselves. Then third and most important is empathy. If today any single word is going to make a difference between what we are, what we would be, and what we might never be, is empathy. Barack Obama said that a society suffers from an empathy deficit. Now we don't have any empathy for our fellow human beings. We don't have any empathy for nature. COVID has happened because of that. We have been destroying nature regularly. So have empathy for fellow human beings. Have empathy for nature, and realize that the empathy quotient is possibly the most vital quotient in today's times.
True.
Right?
True.
So then I have also talked about the bonding between partners. Most people think that parenting is all about bringing up children. No. As important as anything else is how the partners bond with each other. Because if you are fighting, if you have struggle, if you are, not friends, then those feelings, that bickering, would be absorbed by the children. I'm from a broken home, so I understand how important it is for partners to trust and respect. There's a movie called Thappad. I don't know whether you've seen or not.
I haven't
The
watched
husband
it.
slaps the wife.
I've heard of
Watch
that,
it.
but I haven't
Husband
watched
slaps
it.
the wife, and people say it's only one slap. It is not one slap, damn it. It is respect. How can you not respect your partner? How can you not trust your partner? How can you not be friends with your partner? Right? So these things are so very important that please treat your partner with respect and have effective communication with your partner. I have written a line: never ever allow the violence of silence to destroy your marriage. I have seen so many marriages breaking apart because they don't talk to each other. Everybody is doing their own thing. That's not the way a marriage works. And if your children watch that, they are going to just be torn, and they are going to grow up as, how should I say, disturbed, disrupted individuals.
True. That's yeah. Negativity at home is easily absorbed and seeped in, and they internalize that in very deviant ways, I think, and it comes out in rather deviant ways. That's true. That's true.
Absolutely.
Now you have such an extensive corporate experience. You were the general manager at SAIL, and as you pointed out, you retired only last year. You've been awarded the very prestigious Hall of Fame award by the Public Relations Council of India, which is a premier body. Now, how much of this corporate experience has seeped into your writing?
Not much. It's really not much. But what I'm doing now is I'm chronicling 32 years of my experience as a public relations professional in a book.
Mhm.
And there I'm going to tear apart the hypocrisy, you know, and the what should I say, the kind of stuff which happens in the name of quality, in the name of authority, in the name of progress, in the name of excellence. At the same time, I'm going to talk about the normal employee, the common employee, how he struggles day in and day out with simple aspirations, and how these aspirations are smudged by the powers that be, the bureaucrats, the politicians, and the top management, who have taken the art and science of sucking up to a sublime level.
Brilliant. I'm definitely going to look forward to that. Definitely my cup of tea. Yeah, I can understand where you're coming from. Right. Now, given that you're so highly decorated, 34 awards and counting, can you tell us about that one award, one felicitation that took you by surprise and you cherish that till date?
I think it was in 2001 or 2002. Now, this Children's Book Trust, it conducts a competition for writers of children's literature once in 4 or 5 years. So in first time I participated, I think in 98, I got one award. In 2000 or something, I got 2 awards. In 2003, I got 14 awards. 14 of my stories were selected for award, 4 of them sports stories. So when I got that email, I mean, I can't tell you how thrilled I was, absolutely thrilled, because I never expected, and I think it still remains a kind of a record that in one particular competition, no writer has got 14 prizes. And there's one more incident which is very, very important to me. I had written a story about about values of peace and compassion. So my father read that story and he took my hands and he kissed them and he said, "बेटा, ये कहानी पढ़ने के बाद तुम्हारे हाथों को चूमने की इच्छा हो रही है. I want to kiss your hands." I'll never forget. That is the ultimate award.
I'm
He
sure.
himself is so well read, you know.
Right. Fantastic. That's beautiful. Now, besides being a very, very powerful storyteller, you're an accomplished orator and you regularly conduct workshops for parents, corporates, institutions. How did you make your foray into public speaking?
Basically, public speaking, how did I start? I started by, in a particular festival, we had writers and storytellers, you know. So I went as a writer. So I thought, why shouldn't I tell a story? My daughter Ankita was there with me. I told a story and people kind of lapped it up, sorry. So, and basically I am one of those guys who wants an audience. Complete narcissist, complete performer and all that. So when I'm at the podium and I have 1,000 people ahead of me, in front of me, it's great. Absolutely fantastic. Most writers turned storytellers like me, like a crowd of 70. I prefer a crowd of 700, right? So the kind of power I feel, I'm sure you must be feeling the same thing, that for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes, these lovely, intellectual, beautiful, wonderful people are going to listen to what I'm saying. I can take them wherever I want, whichever way I want, however I want. That is that rush of adrenaline is something humongous. I think that's why I love public speaking.
Yeah, there's a great energy to it, especially yeah, there are pockets that you know which are looking at you with eagerness. You can sense the emotion.
And with kids, it's even more. Because I remember one storytelling session, one small kid came to me. She was around 7 years old. "Uncle, you have to come to my school once every month." It was a diktat. And one girl came up and said that years later, that today is the happiest day of my life after listening to your story. Now, what more does a writer want? This is like mini bookers scattered all over, you know.
That's well put. That's well put. What about the multiple literary fests that you've been part of? You've even attended literary fests in places like Denmark, Abu Dhabi, Kenya, Sri Lanka. Any one singular memory that has stayed with you?
Yeah, there's one particular festival. I'd gone for this Sharjah Children's Reading Festival. Madhvi and I both had gone. So they had taken us to, apart from a couple of seminars and all that interaction sessions, there was an outreach program where they took me to Abu Dhabi. So when I asked the, the person who was the anchor how many people would be there, he didn't say anything, he just smiled. So when I walked in, I found that 6 basketball courts were chock-a-block with kids, 1100 children. Now, 1100 kids in the age of 8 to 12 can, I mean, it's unimaginable. For professional storytellers, okay, but for a poor writer turned storyteller, it can be really, really tough. So Madhi looked at me and she thought, I'm a goner. I'll have a brain concussion or something. So I said, no, relax, I'll manage. I went there on the stage and I started. And for the next 45 minutes, I can't tell you what a blast I had, and I think they too had. Mantra, singing, dancing, storytelling, Q&A, everything. And one of Madhvi's friends had come from Dubai or some place. He recorded that thing and posted it everywhere. He said, I've never seen this kind of a performance. You're a bloody rock star, man. Well, how could you manage this? I said, I don't know how could I manage. It's just the energy from the kids. The kids are so wonderful. And as we were walking, they started coming with their slam books. I started signing. There was such a melee that they fell on top of me. Ramendra Kumar, kids, kids, one teacher and kids. Finally, the sports teacher had to extricate me and he was apologizing. Sorry, I'm very, very sorry. So I said, please don't apologize. For me, this is the moment. I don't want any apology. In fact, if you can organize an encore, I would want to come to your school every time. So this was great, real fun.
I'm sure. So, is it the same energy that pushes you to dance as well? I believe that you're a very extremely talented, zestful dancer.
I see when I started dancing, it was mainly for elections. So in the college elections and all that. So we would have the big stereos and all that. Anybody who could dance, the candidate he was supporting would win. So I started off like that, and Saturday Night Fever, John Travolta had released. Now what today we have these YouTube stuff and all that, so nothing. So we had to go to the theater and pick up a few steps. So I kept improvising, and basically dance is again gives me a great high. You know, it's the same exhibitionism, whether it's dance or public speaking or what or acting or whatever. I like to be the cynosure of all eyes and have a blast. So that's how my dance videos are doing. One has clocked I think 80.6K or whatever and all. So I love dancing. There have been moments when we were going. I was driving a car and going, and a barat was going. I would tell Madhvi, "Can I get down and dance?"
Can I get down?
And she would give me such bloody looks. I said, "Are you mad or what?" She said, "They don't know me. I don't know them. Let me dance a little bit and all." I've danced in crazy places. In Greece, there is this restaurant where we have a dhaba kind of stuff, but very nice restaurant. So it's all on the roadside. There's a person who plays music, a guitar and all, to Greek music in Athens. Sorry, this was in Santorini. So I was sitting there and doing like this and all that. So somebody came, and the manager came and said, "Indian?" I said, "Yeah." "Bollywood?" I said, "Yeah." "Want to dance?" I said, "Why not?" And my Madhvi said that this is Greek music. It is Greek and literally Greek and Latin and Greek for you. You'll get really beaten up. I said, "No, nothing will happen." And believe me, I danced. I could catch the tune, and it was so much fun. The crowd started dancing. They started clicking, singing and all. And next day, when I entered the same restaurant, I was given a red carpet and no charges for the meal.
Oh, lovely!
So I literally danced for dinner.
That's amazing. That's truly, truly amazing. So you break quite a few stereotypes associated with writers because you are neither moody nor are you a misanthrop. It's completely the opposite of all of that. Right. Now, when and how did you start writing?
Writing, I started, I think my first poem was written when I was around 7. I got a lot of encouragement from my dad again, and he would read up everything I wrote and say, give me the right kind of guidance, but unobtrusive guidance, no interference, never, never. So from there till College of Engineering, I was just meandering into a little bit of poetry and all. From College of Engineering, I went to satire, and a couple of satires got me into some trouble. Then I was told by the management of my company not to write satire, write something else. Then I shifted to children's literature, and luckily, just then my kid was Ankita was 4, my daughter. My son had happened, so my wife wanted me to take care of Ankita by telling her stories. So that's how I became a children's writer.
Interesting. Interesting. Now, who has been the source of your inspiration for your writing and public speaking?
My father. Not that he was a writer, not that he was a speaker. He was not a very good speaker or a writer, but the inspiration, the encouragement. He was always there for me, always. That, and he would guide me gently. He would tell me that, Ramen, please remember, when you're a writer, you have a kind of an obligation to society. Don't write just for entertainment.
Right.
Please try to give a small value someplace. Your responsibility as a writer is extremely, extremely important. Give that touch of hope someplace.
Beautiful, beautiful message. Now, what is your writing process like, and when do you usually write?
See, like most things I do, I can do it in chaos. I can write anytime, anywhere. I have no, I don't wait for the inspiration, Because if you're in a full-time job like public relations, like I told you can't wait for inspiration. So whenever you get time, you write. I've written in meetings, where the managing director is sitting and conducting meetings and all that. So I know in a public sector, out of 60 minutes, 55 minutes is bull manure and 5 minutes is sense. So if you know which 5 minutes, then you can, for the next 55 minutes, you can keep writing. So I've done that. I've done that in our auditoriums where big presentations were being made and all. I've done it with my kids roaming around and shouting and screaming and fighting with each other. So I write in chaos.
Great. Now I know that you live in Bangalore, and how long have you been in Bangalore? Have you become conversant in Kannada, or are you in the process of learning Kannada? I'm asking because it's my home state.
Yeah, lovely place. We are now staying in a rented apartment. We'll soon be moving to our own villa. And I'm trying to pick up a spattering of Kannada. It's not easy because we're really not getting to meet people. So right now it is Namaskara, Dhanyavadagalu, Channadigiri or something like that.
Chennagidira. I speak well.
And then some numericals and Nai for Aryan and like that. But it's a beautiful language. I can read a little bit.
Right.
Because I can read Kannada, and I really want to learn the language. It's a beautiful language. It's so euphonious to the ear.
Right, and since you are conversant in Telugu, it wouldn't be difficult because the script is also the same, and there are many common words, very many common words. Great. And any special message to viewers of the Writer Talks?
See, my only message would be that for writers, please write, please read. Don't write for the market. Don't write to please your mother-in-law's grandfather. Write first for yourself. If you are happy, if you are satisfied with something which you have written, then you will achieve your goal. But your goal should not be number of copies sold, number of reviews. Your goal should be to reach out to some person somewhere and offer him a tiny bit of hope, some solace, some succor. Bring a smile to his face, especially in these pandemic times or otherwise also. I have been so many times told that, write fantasy, write this, write that. I ask them to go to hell. I'll write what I'm comfortable with. Because if I'm true to myself, I'll be true to my audience. Second thing is, never ever take your audience for granted. Especially when it comes to children. Children are much, much smarter than you and I.
Right.
right?
And I think they are more forthright.
They are more forthright. Never ever take them for granted. Never take your audience for granted. Write with honesty and forget about what your mother-in-law's grandfather or grandmother thinks.
Fantastic. Now, before I let you go, I know that both of us share this common malice, calling a spade a spade. Has there been any particular instance where you've gotten into a funny or a tricky situation? Trouble, yeah, obviously. But then, what about a funny or a tricky situation?
For me, tricky is and also funny, and not only once, a number of times. Uh, but one was very, very serious. It jeopardized my career. There was this managing director, a very tough guy, a very good administrator, but he was 5 feet 4 inches with an ego of 11 feet 14 inches. Very egoist. So I had gone to his chamber with a manuscript, which had to be cleared by him. So he was looking at it and he was making some corrections. Then he got a call from the chairman. So since it was there, then I took a look and then I made one small correction. And then again he started. And then he said, "What's this? It's employees at the shop floor." So I said, "No, sir. It is employees on the shop floor." "What do you mean? It's employees at the shop floor?" So I said, "No, sir. I'm quite sure it's employees on the shop floor." "What do you mean you're quite sure? You think you know more than me?" And he just chucked that manuscript out, and then he said, "Get out from here and never ever enter my room." He must have checked and must have found that I was right and he was wrong. He waited for I think 18 days, and then he transferred me to a unit called fertilizer plant, where all the employees were in the process of being transferred to other units. So I had no work. So from 9 to 5:30, I was just sitting and doing nothing. So I started writing, right? And at 5:30, people would ring up and find out whether I was there or not. There were no cell phones then, on the intercom, just to check whether I run away or I'm there or not. I wrote 5 books. Next time, after around 7-8 years, when he came, I presented those 5 books to him, and I told him, "Sir, this was courtesy you banishing me to fertilizer plant." Fortunately, he laughed and shook hands with me. That was very sportive of him.
That's fantastic, and I love the way you use the time. That's brilliant. So it turned out to be a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, big, huge blessing. But I could have been finished. My career could have been finished.
Right. Yes, that's right. All right. Thank you so much, Ramen, for your time, and all the best wishes to you for all your upcoming ventures, and hope to see you again soon on Writer Talks.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed, and I don't think even the Spanish Inquisition can be compared with the Asha Inquisition. In a positive way, of course. I loved those questions, and some of them I've never been asked before, So
good, mission accomplished then.
Yeah, very, very interesting, and I really, really enjoyed myself.
Likewise. Thank you so much. Ahoy.
Bye-bye. Bye.